Welcome to another exciting adventure of Dinner for Wolf, a movie podcast by movie fans and not a movie about podcast fans. On this special spooky-ish episode, I'm your co-host, Gray Digger, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts,
Big Red One
and
Blue Top Beach.
And today, we have a wild one for you folks. We're talking about the World War II Nazi zombie core grindhouse film, Overlord. Released in 2018 and directed by Julius Avery, who has only directed 4 films, one of which is the new Sylvester Stallone grumpy old superhero movie Samaritan, and produced by J.J. Abrams, from an Abrams and his buddy Billy Ray penning the story, getting credit for having played Wolfenstein a couple times and writing down a loose interpretation of it. Fun fact, originally, this was supposed to be in the same shared universe as the Cloverfield films, but when the bong smoke cleared, Abrams decided that wasn't a super idea. So, to get things rolling, we're going to jump into our segment that we call the speed run.
Lay it on us. Should we, hold on, I'll set up the time for this too.
Oh, yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
We open on the eve of D-Day, where there is a very not-so-stealth paratrooper infiltration underway. The camera pans around to our obligatory stereotypical military types. Loud, authoritative sergeant yelling exposition. Visibly nervous guy quaking. Brash and loud guy brashly and loudly covering up his nervousness. Bonus points for his exaggerated Brooklyn accent. Too cool for school hardened guy chilling in the corner. And our protagonist wide-eyed and just taking it all in. Sergeant Exposition reminds us, the team, that there is a radio tower that they need to destroy in order for the D-Day invasion to not be a slaughter, because the Nazis apparently have no redundancies in their comm system, but we can't bomb it because those dang dastardly Nazis built it on top of a church. Like clockwork, the moment Sergeant Exposition is has finished filling us in, the planes are shot from AA guns, perforating every character that hasn't spoken yet, leading to a genuinely exciting and well-shot flaming plane to parachuting to almost drowning to hiding in the woods sequence. After watching the sergeant get executed without relinquishing his figurative bad wallet, our surviving gang from the plane miraculously regroups, and despite their plane being one of what looked like at least 30 in the opening shot, we don't see an Allied soldier that wasn't from that one plane for the rest of the film. One guy loses a quick best-of-1 round of rock, paper, landmine. The 4 remaining squad mates meet up with a French girl with a pillowcase full of jewelry and gold, and they make her let them have a sleepover with her little brother and aunt. Brash Brooklyn guy trash talks the kid for being a child and existing in some obvious heavy-handed foreshadowing before he and the other privates depart to check out the rendezvous point. Suddenly, everyone has to Anne Frank it while our big bad, SS officer Euron Greyjoy, gets rapey with Chloe, for what is implied to be not the first time. Our morally upstanding protagonist blows the whole operation to stop Captain Euron, so they tie him up in the attic. Brooklyn and the private haven't come back yet, as our protagonist is sent to check on them, where he sees some disfigured people getting barbecued without dying. He gets chased by a dog and decides that a truck full of corpses is a great hiding place. The truck takes him into a totally normal bunker under the church, where he discovers an evil Nazi human experiments lab, where yet another guy from his squad and plane is alive, but being experimented on. He frees his buddy, randomly grabs a brightly colored syringe, and escapes back to the slumber party. When our guys get back to the party, we see that the other 2 dudes have returned from the rendezvous without help, so there's no reason for the excursion to the bunker. The gang starts beating up on the captured Nazi, asking what the effed up lab is for. After beating him up, the gang leaves their least responsible squad member with the most dangerous hostage, who promptly frees himself and shoots the dummy. Our guy promptly injects the dead squad mate with the goo, because why wouldn't you? And dead dummy becomes undead dummy right quick, and they have to smash his face to pieces. In the scuffle, Nazi takes the little boy hostage and escapes, but gets his face blown in half in the process. Back at base, Nazi Euron has a whopping headache, so he takes a double dose of zombie super soldier juice, despite Dr. Frankenstein shouting that it hasn't been tested on the living yet. Euron feels much better, but he's still pretty grumpy. Our boys decide to infiltrate the base and save the kiddo, destroy the lab, and destroy the control tower in one fell swoop. Our main 2 dudes plant some bombs and try to fight Euron, who has turned into a sentient version of the Resident Evil tyrant, and to overcome him, Kurt Russell's son has to use PEDs too. The boy gets saved by Brooklyn, who takes a bullet in doing so, couldn't see that coming, and our protagonist manages to escape while blowing up the lab, the tower, the church, whoops, not blowing up that was the whole point, and super soldier Wyatt Russell. In our final scene, our guy gives credit to the great idea to destroy the secret lab to Wyatt, and the survivors get reassigned to continue the war.
You had 3:23. That was actually one of the longer ones.
It was.
Yeah, you were excited about this, but hey, you're excited about this movie. I'll let you go with it.
I know. We gotta keep it under 2 minutes in the future.
That's a good, accurate recap. I'm sitting here pondering, both proud of you for the creativity of turning and franking it into a verb and wondering if that's what's going to get this podcast canceled. But that's fine. It's been a good run. Yeah, that is a very accurate summary of all of that.
So, I want to say I've watched this movie 2.5 times. When we were first assigned it, this was a Halloween assignment, and for all you know, for all you listeners out there, this could be Halloween day right now. We're handing out candy and we're talking about a fright, exciting movie, but it's not.
Yeah,
It's not.
it's we're all getting over being sick, and one of us is getting sick, and we got busy and life stuff. What can you say?
Yeah, so I'm the one who gave the assignment for this movie, and I saw it in theaters in 2018 while on a work trip, and I was very far from sober when I saw it and found it entertaining if stupid.
Well, let's back up a little bit to
And just
okay,
and,
okay,
and
okay, okay.
My big curiosity that we're going to figure out over the next hour or so is, does my inebriated interpretation hold up?
Right. And to give
I
a
wish
little
I had
context,
a few drinks before I watched the movie a couple of times.
to give a
That's
little
my wish.
context for why we picked this movie, Red and Gray had the task of picking a movie that's not too spooky for Blue to watch, because Blue does not like scary movies.
Blue also likes talking about himself in third person.
Blue does like doing that sometimes. Blue is trying to go with the theme, but there we go.
So originally we were gonna watch like some grindhouse horror flick. We suggested it, but Blue is definitely afraid of clowns, so that he'll never watch it. He'll never watch this great movie.
I am correct to be afraid of clowns. We talked about The Thing, which was a possibility, but I think we had trouble streaming it, or I forget why we didn't do that one.
Yeah.
And then Gray came up with this, which looked pretty good. Right amount of silly and potentially good. And all,
I've got plenty to say about it.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
I was gonna suggest the new Hellraiser remake, but I knew that was a non-starter with Blue.
Yeah,
but it's not even a scary movie. It's more erotic, I think.
Sure. I mean,
also a non-starter with Blue.
No. Let him explain himself.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jason movies in the 80s where it's like half softcore porn, half like jump scares. Those are okay. It's not intense creepy. It's fine.
Okay, so you don't like tension. You like jump scare.
I don't like I don't like jump scares a lot, but in the slasher movies they're silly. They're not like I hate tension jump scare. When it's all jump scare and all goofy, that's fine. I've actually never seen a Hellraiser movie.
As long as you can take yourself out of the film, as long as you're not too into the film. Okay.
When it's just ramp you up, oh god, what's around that corner? Right. That's what gets me.
Gotcha.
And clowns. Anything with clowns. Doesn't need to be a scary movie, just a circus.
So this movie is not technically a scary movie. It's more like a body horror action /
No, what it is if they gave the COD Zombies games like a backstory and plot for that happening.
Dude, those do have stories.
Oh, a good one.
Oh, I bet.
A better one.
Okay, so
not a bad one. It's not a terrible one. It's not a terrible one.
Before of course we start, talking about the weaker points of the story. Let's talk about the finer points. The creme of the crop. Well, what was your favorite parts? I'll tell you mine. My favorite part. I love movies where they pronounce Nazis as Nazis.
That's always a plus. That's always a plus.
I had two overarching favorite parts. The first one is just like characters generally reacted the way that natural is going to be a strong word for a movie about a zombie apocalypse D-Day type thing. But when the private first gets reanimated, there's like a solid 30 seconds of how's it going, buddy? You feeling okay? You're looking more alive than you were. Like, no one knows what to do, and he's confused and they're confused, and it's exactly be like, I don't know what to do here, and that was genuine, and I liked it, and that's in like a lot of scenes. The other thing, slightly more serious note, and reading up on it, this is a very purposeful thing by the directors, whole production team, is there's and you get this with very people who are insistent on like historical accuracy for this, and I get it, but it can get in the way of people who live in today's world being represented enjoying a movie. Like in real life, it was not an integrated military. There would be swastikas everywhere, all the things like that. And the creators of the movie were like, we don't want swastikas all over the movie. The main character is black. We know it wasn't integrated. Who cares? We want people now to be able to enjoy the movie. I thought those were good choices, and they just said out front, like, this is for people now. It's not for people then. Shut up. And I really like, and they don't draw any attention to it in the actual movie. They're just, here you go. And it's very well done.
It is a fun, like, they try to do like a fun thing, even though, like, World War II, not particularly.
Like it's already like, because people would say, "Oh, it's not a great military." Yeah, but there were zombies. Like, where are we going with this, right? So, like, that's what they're embracing, and that's what I enjoyed about.
So that reminds me about my second point that I enjoyed about this film. This film made me remember better films.
Yes, it does.
Right? There are scenes where you're just like, I got to go on YouTube to check that scene again. Like, oh yeah, that is very similar. That is very similar to like when the curly-haired, bright-eyed guy gets whacked, right? And he's dying, right? That scene is almost identical to Saving Private Ryan when the medic gets shot.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if Band of Brothers counts as a film, a lot of the paratroopy stuff works out that way, right?
Well,
but
also the intro scene with getting yelled at by the sergeant, and then all of a sudden the plane gets attacked, and he has to like drop out of the plane and into a hot zone, and everything's crazy. They basically stole that whole, even though it's a thing in other things, they stole that almost shot for shot from Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that seems so familiar.
They just like hot swapped it to World War II instead of like Future War with aliens. And
go ahead. Sorry.
And the thing is, until I thought of that opening scene as like the most gripping of the whole movie. Yeah. And then I realized it's a total cop out, like ripoff. I was like, oh, never mind.
So on that scene, I read, and I forget where, so either we can confirm it. It's this is very helpful research, I know. But apparently did a lot of practical effects in the movie, and apparently that was one of them where they literally lit the back of like a rig on fire and dumped stuntmen out of it. Like a lot of that wasn't CGI. A lot of that, a lot of it was, but a lot of it wasn't. Apparently, Gray, you look like you have.
Well, that's interesting to hear, because one of my gripes about this movie, which we'll get to later, is about this bad CGI towards the end of the movie. So I'm wondering if they filmed a lot of this in order, which doesn't always happen, and they ran out of money on the back end.
Possibly.
And they blown their effects budget on practical and good CGI in that opening stuff.
It did make about the amount of money that it cost, which is never a good thing when you're talking about like recouping distribution costs. So I wouldn't be surprised if budget ended up being a factor. But
so if this was a video game, right, it'd be very enjoyable, right? Because it's it's formatted very similarly to a video game, right? Like the guy has his intro, like Sergeant Dave Chappelle is yelling at his troops. he's not Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, that's not that is not at all what I'm trying to.
No, but he's been in every like military movie. He's like a
that
Spartan.
actor, right?
He was in The Rock. He was like the guy who's like the third guy in The Rock. But he does look like a very jacked Dave Chappelle.
He does. He's like steroid Dave Chappelle.
But anyways, like so even when he crash lands, right? Like he has no weapons and he's scrounging around and he's like, "Oh, pistol." And it's like and he gets like, "Oh," and it's like it could practically be like a first person shooter where like he gets upgrades on like his way and
Oh, fun fact about this. This is just a weird thing about me that I'd like to disclose because it's entertaining, I think. Whenever there's a movie where someone is underwater holding their breath, I hold my breath too. Actively thinking about it to see if that scene is completely unrealistic or not, or how harrowing it might be. So like I will hold my breath when the character is like about to drown.
Yeah.
That made, for a second, I thought you meant as a reaction. I'm like, Gray, can we not leave you alone? Do we need to tell Mrs. Gray about this so she doesn't find you? Like, no, okay, this makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't let myself die, obviously. And I don't have the world's greatest lung capacity. But when it's supposed to be that, like, oh my God, we have to hold our breath and swim under this tunnel, like, I will hold my breath when the character does and see if what they're doing is actually harrowing or not.
Right. I will say both the opening stuff and like the acting in this movie is overall surprisingly pretty solid. Like the it's better than the writing, is what I will say. The actors, they play their parts well. Like they I don't know, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think my only exceptions there would be over the top Brooklyn accent guy.
Yeah, like I mean, how do you mean? Like he was over the top and silly, but I
But that being said, I'm about to backtrack now because that being
okay,
said,
yeah.
I feel like that actor always plays that character, which
Yes,
means that might
exactly.
be who he really is, and he's just a
Right.
bad actor who just
Yeah.
is himself.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
which case,
what
in
what I
which
was gonna
case, he's extremely authentic because he's just himself.
what I was gonna say is like to me, just like you were meant to be annoyed at that character and like that. I don't know if that was
Yeah.
bad acting or just like, man, I want to hit that guy. But yeah, you saw the face turn coming from like 20
Yeah.
minutes into the movie away.
Ah,
Yeah.
kids are a waste.
Right.
So, I don't know if this is a good thing or a negative thing, but it's something that I've noted, and it worked for me in this movie. That like the whole like that this genre is so like copy centric of other World War II movies, even down to the character stereotypes, right? Like on the plane itself, you already have a list of like the generic stereotypes. Like you got the newbie who's like wide eyed and just like, I'm gonna take a picture, and everyone's annoyed at him for some unknown reason. Then you have Bronxy, who's like from the Bronx, I guess, and like
Yep.
he's also the sniper. You got to have a sniper.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And then like you have the silent protagonist who has really no character at all. Like he is like very like good guy.
He's like, yeah,
His character is he's sensitive. Yeah. I mean,
he's like
you know.
totally generic human who has strong morals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Strong, moral, good guy. Like you put yourself in his shoes, And then
Strong
of
moral
course,
good
like
guy who can, when he needs to, go completely berserk and butt of a rifle club his undead friend to death, and then be rational the whole rest of the movie again. But yes,
yeah, the like the veteran who's been in the other like the longer war, and he's gruff and like he won't open up to anybody
Nope.
except for the end.
listen, that guy and his dad tell him he'll never be Snake Plissken his entire life. All right, you don't know what that guy's been through.
I don't know what about his face. I just don't like it. I don't like that guy's face.
He was good in the movie though. I thought it was
Why?
good in
Yeah,
this.
Wyatt Russell is not a bad actor.
No,
You're right.
not at all.
He's got a weird face though. Like
Yeah.
he's like, no, really. I mean, like, I've settled on he's like 60% his dad's face,
Yeah,
40% his mom's face, but then with a big underbite.
yeah.
And the big underbite's what throws me.
When I was watching it, I actually looked up who he was. I didn't recognize him, and I'm like, this guy feels famous, but I don't recognize him from anything. And I think that's what. Cause I'm like, oh, you're not quite your dad. I think is what I was seeing.
He was recently in Winter Soldier and the Falcon.
Yes.
Right, which I've not seen, but I've heard
Oh,
he's good in that. I've heard he's good
yeah.
in that.
Yep.
But.
And then he's also oh yeah, that's right. Because he's the new Captain America, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a show called like Lodge 49 or something where he was like this like slacker surfer dude who joins like a parallel of the Masons.
Right. But going back to the main character a little bit, one thing I enjoyed about that is because when they run to the French lady and like and so you realize he speaks French and I'm like, well, why? And they seem all surprised by it. You don't learn up that he was like a French translator, and even not Snake says like, oh, Boyce is his name, like chief translator official, and like kind of taken aback. And you later find out that like, oh, like his grandma's from Haiti or whatever. Like they throw you a cookie of logic where it's like, here's an actual thing that, yes, it's a crazy luck happenstance thing, but
Wait a minute. I get what you're saying, but this exact example, and in fact, all the way down to it being French, is one of the things we look for and make fun of in Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Yeah.
Where we always look for the token excuse why he has an accent.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm not going to dispute that, but I have to push back on the whole premise. Okay, can I just get because you're applying that to a Jean-Claude Van Damme. What you're doing is you're applying the why does Harrison Ford have a scar in the movie test to like it's a test that applies to Harrison Ford movies and Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I don't think it's entirely fair to apply that to other movies.
It's not. It's not. It's not an exact parallel, but it did make me think of it.
If Jean-Claude Van Damme was why he spoke French, then yes, I'd be with you.
And it really it's taking the logic backwards. It's
Right,
not. It's
right,
not.
right, 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 right,
Why do you happen to speak French? It's why is your voice so damn weird?
right,
Yeah.
right, right,
And yeah, just like that, he's the one that happens to speak French, and he's
right.
able to communicate.
But it was
with-
confusing, and then like, oh, you know what? That makes enough sense for this movie. Like, you
It-
know,
Yeah, again, it's like literally first-person shooter storyline, like
Right.
just like
And,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
and then it becomes irrelevant within minutes because then we
yes,
find out that the girl speaks
yes,
English
yeah, exactly.
and magically all these Nazis in France also speak English, which is really convenient.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
yeah, yeah.
really helpful.
What the doctor doesn't. The doctor doesn't. There's one scene where the language barrier is an issue, so give him that. Give him that.
Yeah. So the main character needs a grandmother from Haiti to speak French, but the French lady, she doesn't need any relative to.
No.
She just she took a tour in like she had those Garfield books or whatever it was in that era.
No. No, she went to
Yeah.
Baseballistan. That's where her brother
Yeah, of
learned
course.
baseball, and
Yeah,
all of Koreans
of
know
course,
baseball.
baseball. Yeah,
And
everyone
then,
loves baseball.
yeah, and then there we go. It's sort of like you took a D-Day movie and combined it with like the early parts of Resident Evil, whether it's games or movies or what have you, were like the lab and the escape from it and what's going before it just gets
So here is what, like the first time it's like an enjoyable, like it's like I'm playing a video game, but not really, kind of thing.
Mhm.
The second time, oh buddy, that is not an enjoyable watch because that is
No.
pure like a grind. Because you're no longer just being like, oh, this is kind of like what I would see in a video game. This is like, why is this like what I would see in a video game on the second time around?
100%. And
jokes on
that's
you. I only watched it once.
and that's true for me too, even though the first time I saw it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So even though you saw it twice in 2 weeks and I saw it twice in 4 years, the second time still felt like that. It still
Yeah.
felt like, wait a minute, I thought this stuff was cool. What is going on here?
Speaking of, and this, I don't know if this is more a video game trope or other horror movie trope. I want to know if the same thing bothered you. Is there something that at the very end of the movie you were expecting to happen as like the, whether it's a throwaway to a possible sequel or just the ominous, like,
You're talking about like either as like you're talking about like either sequel bait and or the like
the zombie thing could still
the-
be out there.
the final scare of like
Yes.
the 90s horror
The
movies.
final scare or like the final reveal of like they thought they got it, but they forgot about this. There was something very obvious to me that they like just never addressed.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I didn't feel it nearly as strongly as you did, but
Right.
like
But no, is
I
there a
was- I
specific thing? Because I
oh
have
no,
one.
oh tell us then.
So,
Go
you know how they had I forget his name. It was a Jewish name, which became important because the guy was like very worried about being captured by Nazis because he's Jewish, and he's the one that ended up in the lab and all that, right?
Yeah.
He saves him. And when he gets there, he's like, they've been pumping me full of crazy chemicals. They take a syringe the size of the guy's like torso out of him, and
Yep.
it's like very, very heavily hinted that he's been experimented on a lot. So I was expecting at the very end to be some sort of like, because they blow up the lab,
He would be the monster.
he
right?
lies to the army and all this, and then like
Yep.
he turned the corner and you'd see a little glint in his eye. Like, I don't know if I'd be madder if they did do that, but I'm just like, why was that in there?
They
if not-
pretty much forgot about that guy. Like,
I
Yeah.
think they forgot about him, and then also, and this comes from having watched it twice and reading the Wikipedia a couple times. Remember the sludge that they were using to make the zombie soldiers, right?
right.
That was flowing underground under that village.
Oh
but
god,
they
I
said-
forgot about that. They had to refine it, right?
They had to refine it through the
Yeah.
bodies of the villagers. So I think they were setting him up to refine the sludge.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? God help me. I have to give the movie points for
So I
plot
think-
consistency there.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
they were giving him the super serum because they also said it hasn't been tested on the living yet.
Yes, that was
Right.
a key thing.
So I think that they were using him as like a human zombie sludge dialysis machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Pained me to say that. But
I
yeah.
know. Look, it pained me to explain it.
Yeah. No, look, comment withdrawn. I was wrong. I can admit it.
so
But my first watch through, I did suspect that he was going to like flip at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the amount of physical damage that the characters like experience, again, very you know, Depending on what the scenario calls for. So the guy literally has his liver punctured, right? And like he can barely walk and he has to be dragged out. And so, finally when they do save him, they give him some wet naps and he's
Yep.
in the next scene shooting an LMG, like a heavy machine gun by himself,
Yeah.
To be fair,
Yup.
it's 2 scenes later, but yes. And even
But yeah.
commenting on how it's a 2-man gun, so
Yeah.
like stop giving him crap. Right.
So
Yep,
the
exactly.
German guy who's who's the bad guy who escapes them, he is beaten half to death,
Yep.
right? And he's stabbed in the leg. Yet he is fighting pretty well for a guy
Yep,
who's just been
yep.
on the brink of death. He
Yep.
runs and he gets shot in the face, of course, and he's just like bullying all of his German soldiers, like looking for the serum, just like listen.
And
Yep.
he's also running while holding that kid who's like probably 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Like he was just almost dead 5 minutes
Yes.
ago, and
Yep.
he was running full speed, holding a child, barking orders.
Yep.
Like I know adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I don't think it goes that far.
Yo, it ain't as hell of a drug as a zombie drug, man. You saw what that thing did to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
right.
has not been tested on the living.
Yeah. Well, was then. But
So the main the as soon as I started watching the movie the second time, the main thing that kind of pulled me out of the whole thing was just like the entire mission in general is just kind of like this kind of vague, like you have to go and destroy the radio tower at the church, like otherwise our planes can't get there, but we're gonna still fly planes to drop
Right.
you off right there. We're not gonna bomb them though. We're gonna send you, like
Right.
we're not gonna send you ahead of time or anything like that, because he drops in and he's maybe like a mile away. So
well, I mean, and again, I'm probably giving the movie too much credit here, but there were, I think they're called Pathfinder. There were people on D-Day who were flown in, like, we're sending a small group in to do stuff like that, to take it out, to let the main force drop it later. So that
but they wouldn't be
was a thing.
dropped like directly over the AA stuff.
No, but they have to go over it. But like, point being, they go in to sneak back and take out some AA stuff. So like, that is a thing that happened. That is a thing that happened in D-Day. So.
I think what Red's saying though is that a more logical thing would be to drop them further away from the guns that can destroy them.
Fair.
With time to traverse.
Yeah.
Because traversing on foot and hiding from patrols is probably safer than flying directly over AA guns.
When you say it like that, it sounds bad. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and not to mention, like, so the entire like western front of like the battle is like reliant on like this one church. Like that's the like this whole communication center is like, that's the thing. Twitter of like of World War II Germany, I guess.
Like, how is the master comm station here above your secret? Like, okay, why on earth would you have your master comms and your secret zombie lab in the same place?
That's a fair question.
Like, you don't want those two found at the same time ever. Right. So like,
even
they
just
should
for
be
internal controls. You don't want your engineers, like, you need to fix the relay. Don't go into this room. Like, yeah.
Right. Also, all of that, of course. Also, in what universe would one tower be the entire link for like all of France?
Yeah.
Well, or all of like where the invasion is going to be.
Yeah.
Like,
again,
there would be redundancies.
Yeah. Well, again, and again, probably making too much excuse. My viewpoint of that was like, this could have been repeated in a bunch of other places. Like, this was this area and this tower to get this part of the assault. Like D-Day, you had Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, like I said in the speed run though, I find it hilarious that the reason they had to drop them was because it's built on a church, so they can't just bomb it. And then they blow up the church anyway, and he gets reward, and he doesn't get yelled at by his command. His command, who does not know about the lab, they do not know. They do not know that the lab was there and needed to be blown up. All they know is these guys they sent in to get the tower and not the church got both, and he's like, "Good job." Worse than that,
we forgot.
It's not even that they like ignore it. They praise him specific, like, so they raise the question and then flip it around with no explanation. He's like, well, you had plenty of explosives taken out from the top. Why didn't you? It's like, well, whatever. Corporal Snake Plissken Jr. Made the call, so we did it. It's like, well, he made a damn good decision. Like, what? Why? What is your basis for that? It was much harder and had more collateral damage. Why would you say that?
Like, wasn't the whole reason we sent you guys in? Many of you died, by the way. The whole
Yes.
reason these people died was to not blow up the church.
Yes.
Good job on blowing up that church.
Yep.
Pretty much.
So again, the whole movie's silly, but I will say I just enjoyed. And again, I only watched it once. Maybe that's a lot to do with me being less jaded on it, but I just enjoyed the way the characters reacted in it. Like, for things that made like what's going on here, they reacted that way. Do not confuse this. This is not a good movie. This is not a well written movie. It's not a well directed movie. I think it's fairly well acted, but it's tropey. It's fun. It's silly, but it's tropey.
Yeah, but it's not like ironically tropey. Like
No,
like,
no.
They're like they literally
it-
had a grand idea. Not even a grand idea. They had a basic idea, right? Let's have like Call of Duty Nazis. I mean zombies, you
Right.
know. And they're just like, how do we
Wolfenstein.
get there?
I mean,
Yeah, Wolfenstein. Like let's how do we get there? And they're just like, okay, they got to fly in, I guess, and they got to go into the church. They got to bomb things.
Right.
It's in France. I don't know. And like, there's a underground cavern underneath like the church. You know, like they had like they just pretty much like filled in the boxes to get the player to like the end fight, where it's basically like, what if two zombies fight each other? How about that, huh? How about that as an ending?
right,
Yeah, you like
right,
that?
right.
Bam. We've done it. Bad
Right.
robot.
And like that end zombie fight was pretty cool, but like it was a lot. It was a lot to get there.
what did you guys think about Worm Pliskin pulling himself up and off of that giant meat hook?
No way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
No way. No way. Yeah. Exactly.
No
No way.
way.
Okay, because he then crawled to the super serum. Like, he didn't have that first. Like,
Yeah.
he, as a normal human who had been
Yeah.
impaled with a giant meat hook,
Yeah. No
pulled
way.
himself off of it
First of all,
after falling and dropping and re-impaling
Yes.
himself once.
Yeah.
First of all,
like-
he would have bled out. Like, I'm not a doctor. Like, this is a big hook. Like, he would have bled out, right? Like, right?
You know, he probably could have survived, but like, you know, having like just imagine doing a pull-up. Like,
that's
how
already
much?
hard.
Yeah,
Like-
right. That's super hard. Now imagine like you can't use any of
Blue's
your
a big
core
boy,
strength.
ladies and gentlemen. For those,
Like you can't use any of
Like,
your core strength, right? Because if
Right.
you use your core strength, you're impaled on something. Like all of your abdomen is torn up, and
Yep.
that
You
thing's
can't-
like,
You can't
Yeah.
clench the hook.
yeah, you can't
Right.
clench the hook. Like there's no tightening up. You're not
watching it trying to be like, I mean, clearly I can't do this because
you're
I
not doing a
keep human
Kipling
did
pull up
this.
off that
Like,
hook.
no.
All right, that's
Yeah.
Hell
there's
no.
there's no momentum going for you, right? So he has to
Like,
like
do it to
literally
change, so he's swaying around and all. Like, it's nuts. Just no way.
All right, I'm
But-
glad we agree.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
saw that. I was just like,
ridiculous.
that's not happening. Like,
Ridiculous.
That's a big thing I noticed. And this is my counter to like the practical effects at the beginning being good. So, do you guys remember at the end, there's this scene where he is running out of the bunker as the bombs are blowing up, and there's like dead
Yeah.
bodies everywhere, and he
Yep.
like jumps over one, and he's just like running like down that channel out of where like the truck full of bodies had driven him in originally, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I rewatched that scene 3 times to confirm what I thought I saw. 2 things. First of all, there's a body on the ground at one point that he steps over, right?
Okay.
You don't have to remember it, just accept.
okay,
Right.
That body is not there. That was a CGI'd in body because he steps through it. Like he's
oh, does
just
he?
running.
Oh, I didn't.
And like
yeah.
they
not notice that.
positioned like a you know, like almost like is Minecraft. They put just like that piece there to make it
Yeah.
look like he stepped over it, right? And there's
Yeah.
a dead body laying on its back with its arms at its side, which I thought was really weird the way it was laying, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then as he's running, there's all these bodies all over the place from the firefight that happened previously.
God, is it the same body over and over again? Is that what we're
Every
gonna...
single body is
The
the
same
same
body.
body in
Nice.
the exact
Did
same
not
position,
notice that.
Awesome.
perfectly
I did not
on its
notice that.
perfectly on its back with its arms on its side.
Literally a video game.
Like
That's
15 bodies on
funny.
the ground. And then I realized he's going exactly towards the camera, and it hit me. None of this is there. He's in front of a green screen on a treadmill.
Yep.
He's not even going anywhere. He's just on a treadmill, and they
Yeah.
just put everything in, and they lazily just copy pasted the same dead body 20 times.
Yep.
So I did not notice any of that, so I'm not gonna pretend I did. But yes, I remember the scene now. It sounds like they realized at the end they didn't have it, and they called like just him back for a reshoot, and are like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
this
We gotta-
movie is going out in 3 days. We need to
Like,
make
oh,
this thing work.
it doesn't make any sense. We got to do some reshoots to kind of flush it out a bit,
Yeah,
Like
right.
here's one of the scenes where I was just like, how did this make it into the film, right? So when they storm the fortress, right, or like the underground cavern, they have to of course get through all the guards, right? So they kidnap one of the SS soldiers, right? They tie him to a motorcycle, right? Put a grenade in his mouth, let him ride the motorcycle to all the way to the gate, and like once his comrades like untape him, right? The pin
Right.
is taped into it. So as soon as they pull it out, like the pin pulls out and everybody
Right.
blows up.
Right. Pretty
So
funny, right?
yeah, hilarious. However, this guy actually had to participate in this because there's no way
Right.
it's not remote controlled or anything. Like he has to ride the motorcycle. He has to just because you tape his arms doesn't mean like he can't control the motorcycle. Like
Bumped it at any time. Just lean.
yeah, he could have just leaned and fell over.
Yeah,
And not only that,
It did have
like-
a sidecar. I know.
Yeah,
But he
right,
could
there's
have
a-
leaned. He could have leaned hard the opposite side of the sidecar.
yeah,
Now, yes, but again, because you see him, I think he was hoping somehow I'd get there and be frantic enough that they wouldn't ungag me. Like, I don't know, man.
I mean,
it's
if it
silly.
was me,
It's silly.
I would purposefully tip over
yeah.
so
oh,
that
yeah.
they had to come to me and gave them more time to think something's
Yeah.
wrong here.
Well,
Right.
especially since like he decides to drive the motorcycle all the way into the base, right?
Yep.
Have all of his friends surround him and park really close to the truck full of explosives.
Full of explosives. Yes,
Yeah.
that
Yup.
is the sticky.
He's
note.
like, that was like, this is my only hope of getting out of this situation. Like
Yep,
that.
the one. So,
So
agreed on all
stupid.
that. Agreed on all that. Like that was. It was a
So stupid.
funny moment. Like I'm glad it was in the movie, but it makes no sense. One thing, like immersion breaking to the degree this is a thing in a movie about zombies in World War II, is there's all this thing like gotta be very quiet. We're in this attic. We gotta do this quick, super loud burst from assault rifle. Okay, everyone be very, very quiet. When you sneak
Yeah.
around the voice, I'm gonna shout around the door. Okay, we gotta be very, very, very quiet. And get like there's just all
Yeah, they
of these
tackled the
loud
captain.
bursts of sound.
Yeah.
Are you
And then they
talking?
pretend that nothing happened. And it's like
Are you
5
talking?
times in the movie. It's like 5 or 6 times in the movie.
Are you talking about when they were really bad at Anne Frank in it?
Why would you double down? Why? Why would you do that? Oh,
So
Oh,
it
God.
literally is again like the scenario of a video game, right? Where like they literally beat up like this guy, like they're throwing him around, and like the dudes that escorted him are just like, oh, I guess nothing's happening there, and like they're firing weapons, but like
Yep.
even though like you hear a gunshot, that's like a 2-mile radius you can hear that gunshot, right?
Yep.
And they're just like they don't hear crap. Like
Yeah.
it's only that one
Nope.
instance where the
That's it.
enemies are like alerted. And then they go to the next area. It's totally clear. Like nobody notices anything.
Yep. It's Anne Frankie. It was a nice podcast we had once. Yeah, no, that's yeah, agreed on all of that. So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of all I have to say about it. It was fun. Like, I don't think I'm as jaded on it as you guys are. Again, I only watched it once, but like, it's not good. Don't look for it to be. This is not like this. This is true of everything J.J. Abrams makes.
Yeah.
It's clearly not as good as J.J. Abrams thinks it is. This is not a self-aware movie, right? I'm not giving it that. I enjoyed it despite all that. It had the things I gave it credit for at the beginning, I mean, but it is not a self-aware.
Isn't it kind of similar though to like all J.J. Abrams' other movies? Like it has
Of
that
course
kind
it
of
is.
same
Mhm.
vein of like it like parts of it felt like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like the first Star Wars, right? Where everyone's just like they have that scene where everyone's like shocked and like,
Yeah.
like there's lots of running, there's lots of like these like parallel, like you have the one soldier guy who's like, even though we're soldiers, we still got we got morals, like we can't just beat
Oh,
this guy to
JJ
death.
you have an opening scene full of frenetic thing that you have orientation on. Then you get slightly more backstory on the people. Then you get inside a scene where you're slowly learning more about the predicament, and then you have it all fall to crap when they have to make everything come together. It's a J.J. Abrams movie. Like that's what happened. He didn't direct this one, but whatever. He was involved.
Was he like it feels like he like
Yeah.
had a hand in like a
Well,
lot
Yeah,
of
no. Abrams. I mean, if you thought that independently, then kudos to you because
No, I did think that I did not. I thought that
Yes.
independently. So like, what?
Abrams came up with the original idea for this story.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Okay.
I thought
And
he.
no, he did. No, J.J. Abrams was the originator of the story, and then his friend wrote the script after the two of them presumably just got stoned and talked about it for a while.
Right.
His friend wrote the script, and then Abrams produced it.
Oh. Okay.
This is a bad robot movie.
Yeah, I will
It
say,
is.
Billy Ray is what the writer. Who is that?
Billy Ray's the writer.
I will.
The director is.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Well, I was gonna say,
No, no.
Red, you're stealing my thunder here because when
Oh, go ahead.
it happened to me when I was reading like who directed it, and it happened again in the intros where like my instinct is Billy Ray what Cyrus that like I'm like that can't I'm like oh it's last name, but like I just
Only a
every
couple.
time like Billy Ray who and like you know his name's funny. I mean it's very juvenile of me, better than Anne Frankie and up. But no, that's fun. It's good.
So at like the major points of this movie are just like it's fun for the first time, but the glaring like nonsensical parts of this movie like make it really hard to watch the second time. Like I would like if you were inebriated, yeah, you probably enjoy this. Like if I was playing this as like if I had like a controller and I was actually going through like I'd be like this is pretty zany. I like this, you know?
Yeah.
But actually watching it is pretty brutal. It's like the characters are so two-dimensional, right? Howing the French the French girl, right? Like she has no character either. She's just like a plot convenience, you know?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
she's just like
she's a badass because she needs to be a badass, but there's no character development beyond that. Correct.
like why is she like she's not part of the resistance or anything. Like she's just she's there, you know. She speaks English. She's like really proficient with firearms, you know. She has a brother that's like can be easily kidnapped. Like it everything falls into place for all of the characters, right?
Yep.
Well, the thing is, a classic World War II movie trope, like, and this is all essentially all World War II movies, but it's a key part of the bad ones.
Yeah.
Is there are three factions of character.
Yeah.
There's the good guys, which is the Americans, the bad guys, which is the Nazis, and the people we're saving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they needed to include her to be the representative of all the people we're saving because we're, you know, the superheroes of this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
All World War II movies need that. And they realized, I think, that if they omitted that character, it's just Nazi zombies and Americans.
Yep. All right. Shall we move on to morals? Where are
I
we?
think so. What did we learn? Who wants to go first?
I have like a simple one. Like
Go for it. Go for it.
Winners don't do drugs. Unless you're losing, then you do drugs.
There we go.
And then you win.
Then you win.
Drugs.
I'll do mine. Mine's kind of long, convoluted, so I think could break this up a little bit. Surprising, I know. So, you know, nowadays, not World War days nowadays, hear a lot about estate planning, DNR orders, getting your like if you're in a coma, do you want to be, you know, on life support for a certain amount of time, you know, get resuscitated, having your last will and testament all together. All these things are important. But I bet there is an aspect of planning that you have not had with your loved ones. You've not had that. You need to have a conversation about making sure you have a written declaration of whether or not you want to be reanimated by a serum that has been tested on the dead, but not on the living. Because if you are in a church with your buddies in France, and you get killed, and you get got, and one of them really likes you, your buddies, you had a camera, you hung out all the time, this thing, Boyce loves you, man, he's gonna jab you. You have to have it written down with the power of law, whether he should do that or not. Otherwise, you're waking up and snapping your neck back by itself, and no one wants that. Get a lawyer, get it right, your loved ones will thank you.
I think you put it on your dog tag. Do not inject me with experimental.
Yeah.
Right. Do not resuscitate
Nazi
and
serum.
do not zombify.
Yeah, do not zombify.
Have you signed your DNZ? I see you have a DNR. Do you have a DNZ?
DNC, yeah.
Like it wasn't on the tag. I had to inject him.
Do you mean DMZ? Did I say DMZ? No.
No. I know not to resuscitate you if you're dying. I need to know what I can do after you're dead.
Yep.
Exactly. That's
There we
a
go.
big if.
Did you sign your DNZ? That's amazing. That is your best moral yet, Blue.
Thank you. I was
It's a
pretty
good
proud
one.
of that
It's a good
one. I
one.
was pretty proud of that one.
Mine is, and this is to all writers, directors, producers. Don't go half video game adaptation.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like don't play a video game and then go, "Hey, if I just change 3 things, I can make a movie that is basically this, but not really this." Because you are robbing the world of 2 things. Well, you're robbing yourself of your automatic first weekend viewers, who are the people who played that game or are interested in that game. But you're also robbing the world of the first good video game adaptation, because
Yep.
we are still searching 20 years in to video game adaptation movies. We are still searching for the first good one. And I'm not saying this could have been it. I'm saying that this could have been a chance.
Yeah.
Great,
Hey.
great. I hate to do this to you, man, but we're older than you think we are. When do you think 1991 was, or whenever the Mario? That's 30 years ago, man.
You're right. So
Yup.
we are 30 years into video game adaptations. Excuse me.
How different would this movie have been if it was called Return to Castle Wolfenstein?
Yeah, like
Right?
if this was like Return to Bunker Wolfenstein,
Yeah.
or
Church
you know-
Wolfenstein.
right, or if this is I'm trying to get a Call of Duty one, but I can't get something that's direct to this particular movie. But yes, that.
Yeah.
But I think our overarching moral of the story tonight, that I think is shared by all 3 of us from our 3 separate experiences of me watching it twice with 4 years in between, Red watching it twice with about a week in between, and Blue having only watched it once, and our respective takes on the movie. I think the overarching moral for our listeners
I know where
is
you're going with this.
only watch this movie once.
Yeah.
Only watch this movie once. That's a
Yeah.
recommendation I think we can all get behind.
Only watch this movie once, and maybe don't be sober that time.
Yeah. That's a high suggestion.
And you'll have fun.
Should we give this a review?
Yeah.
right,
Well, what
let's,
do you want to grade it?
Let's say I would give it also 1 point. I would give it let's say a 4 really long syringes out of 10 that you could put in your pocket, right? And it's okay. Like you could literally put like an 8-inch syringe into your pocket and run around, and it's perfectly fine.
Not bend the needle or stab yourself.
Yeah, crazy, right?
I'll be a little more generous. I will give it 4.5 baseballs slowly rolling towards an attic staircase with each drop that could bring Nazi soldiers looking for you and ruining your chances of surviving out of 10.
I will give it 6 out of 10 obligatory shouted lines of exposition from the generic sergeant who dies immediately.
Not gonna lie, higher than I thought you'd go. Okay.
Yeah, 6 though. Well, that's watchable.
That's a first
First time watch. Okay, first time
Right,
watch. Okay,
right.
okay.
Also,
First time watch, I'll
Last
bump mine
thing.
down to 5.5. I'll bump mine up to 5.5.
last thing, I implore all of you, if you do watch it, and I implore the 2 of you, don't rewatch it. However, pull this movie back up, fast forward to that scene
The
when he's
end
running out of the
scene,
bunker.
I am going
What?
to watch that end scene.
Dude, count. I want you to. We need to count how many copy and paste of the same dead body.
That's a review in itself. How many copy pasted CGI Unreal corpses could they put on a background? And with that, we'll call it a night.
Yep, and that is Dinner for Wolf.
When I was in New England, or so they often told, I played all the way, Joe. That if I didn't watch this film, I'd miss out on the story. I played all the way, Joe. Play ho, watch today, we'll watch this film together. Play it all the way, Joe. Play ho, watch today, weekends on forever. Play
Our podcast is in dire need of film so non-specific. Play it all the way, Joe. We'll carry on and watch some films with rims that are Pacific. Play it all the way, Joe.